It all began during World War II. Britain desperately needed naval destroyers and so agreed to lease Beanfield and Railway in St. Lucia to the Americans in exchange for destroyers. (1942). The United States makes a decision to build a hospital in the Santa Cruz Valley in Trinidad and Tobago. Somehow, huge shipments of fabricated materials, plus a team of workmen, engineers, carpenters, plumbers, and electricians arrive in St. Lucia and begin work on the Beanfield Military Hospital. Halfway through construction, it was discovered that the hospital was being built on the wrong island. A decoding mix-up caused the construction material and personnel to be sent to Dawn, codename for St. Lucia, instead of Lawn, codename for Trinidad. The construction at the Beanfield Military Hospital was allowed to continue. Beanfield was originally known as the Bean Army Airfield, activated in 1941 and used by the United States Army Air Force to defend St. Lucia against an enemy attack.
The name Beanfield came by the colonel, of course. The colonel who was in charge of that area in Vieux-Fort was Bean, Colonel Bean, so they gave it the name Beanfield.
The Army Hospital was closed down in 1947 and all the equipment and furniture shipped to Puerto Rico. The hospital remained abandoned for the next decade and a half until a group from the Sisters of the Sorrowful Mother who were working at Victoria Hospital discovered the abandoned medical facility. The group was led by then Sister Mary Oma Hilger of St. Francis.
She was kind, she was dedicated, and she was a person's person. She loved people.
30th April 1965, Hogarth Belizier was asked by Mother Irma to accompany them to visit an abandoned United States military hospital.
We came down and arrived here on a Sunday afternoon, about 5 o'clock, only to be greeted by cows and goats and things like that were in around the place. There were many holes in the roof. There were, especially on this side here, but it was just an empty shell. There was no equipment in it. And we finally got the doors working, the locks, those that needed changing, we of course we had to change, but most of the building was intact. The only thing that was not intact was the roof in itself.
The government of St. Lucia, led by then Chief Minister John Compton, agreed to allow the Sisters of the Sorrowful Mother to develop and manage what eventually became known as St. Jude Hospital, named after the patron saint of lost causes. On the 5th of September 1966, St. Jude Hospital was formally opened by Mother Irma and the Sisters of the Sorrowful Mother on behalf of the Catholic Church.
The Sisters of the Sorrowful Mother, they were there from day one. They actually took a hospital that trees were growing in and everything, growing all over the place. They cleaned it. With the help of the American Sisters they have and other organizations, they actually build up St. Jude's.
Because of the international connection of the Sisters of the Sorrowful Mother, with their own chain of hospitals and medical associations in the United States, they were able to bring down specialists whom the government could not afford to bring down to St. Lucia. And that was a tremendous contribution that St. Jude made in those early days, you see. That specialists, all kinds of specialists, were coming, volunteering to come down to serve because of St. Jude.
In fact, the reputation of St. Jude has been one in which the people of the South have benefited from some very quality services provided to them through volunteerism.
In 1992, the St. Jude Hospital was handed over to the St. Lucia government, ending over 2 decades of management under the Sisters of the Sorrowful Mother. Through their network of hospitals, medical professionals, and philanthropists, they made St. Jude a respected hospital built on a foundation of volunteerism and partnerships. Subsequent to the management by the Sisters of the Sorrowful Mother, there was also a management partnership with Mercy Medical Center in Des Moines, Iowa. it is estimated that the network of Catholic churches and hospitals provided $3 million in cash to the St. Jude Hospital annually.
From 1966 till 1992. So that's a lot of money, you know, that has been given, donated by the church to the health system in St. Lucia.
9th September 2009, a night that will long be remembered by St. Lucians and by the people of Vieux-Fort in particular. And for two pregnant mothers, the experience will last generations. Two babies were delivered within hours of the blaze. The first, Janelle David, a baby girl whose mother came from Blois-Dericeau, was born at the Vieux-Fort Secondary School, the first stop for evacuees from the fire. A second baby girl, Lucilla Malcolm, also of Blois-Dericeau, was delivered at the George Odlum Stadium, where the patients, nurses and doctors eventually settled. But lives were also lost. 3 males perished in the fire. Claudia Soudine of Pierrot, Joseph Jean-Baptiste of Pierrot, Bernice Vigier of Belleville Vieux-Fort.
Most unfortunate, and I think that is the thing that has us grieving the most under the circumstances, because as a healthcare institution, our responsibility, our mission is to be able to sustain life. And anytime you have whatever activity that happens within the institution where you have a loss of life, it has to be the saddest and weakest moment for all of us within the institution. And if anything out of that disaster that grieves us the most is the fact that we lost lives on that night.
Rising from the ashes, rebuilding the love.
The fire at St. Jude on September 9th, 2009 unleashed a tsunami of support from the St. Lucian public, who responded seconds after the blaze started.
That was one of the beautiful things that we experienced, even in the face of tragedy, that a lot of the schools, a lot of local organizations, they came on board. Employees in different workplaces made little contributions, and they came and donated to St. Jude Hospital.
Support poured in the form of donations from individuals, from local, regional and international agencies, foreign governments and the private sector, including Hess Oil, who donated $1 million towards equipment and infrastructural work at St. Jude Hospital.
Hess came on board as a very significant donor in terms of providing very important equipment that we needed to be able to provide essential medical services. And matter of fact, they even provided their own personnel to be on site with us to ensure that, those equipment are here and that we can access them when we need to.
St. Jude Hospital continues to receive support in cash, in kind, and in the forms of supplies and equipment. The fire which destroyed the surgical wing of the St. Jude Hospital reignited the spirit of giving in a community that has been built on the concept of Kudme. Volunteerism and partnership is the legacy left behind by the Sisters of the Sorrowful Mother and the Catholic Church, a legacy that will linger for generations.
So this spirit of volunteerism had been there from the beginning with St. Jude. And it is because of that spirit of volunteerism that you had groups of nurses, doctors, lay people coming in hordes down to St. Jude to do not just the actual technical things like surgeries and so forth, but actual health care outreach in the community.
It took less than 24 hours for the George Odlum Stadium to be transformed into a medical facility. Workmen and engineers constructed wards, upgraded the water and electrical infrastructure, installed air conditioning units, and in a short time, St. Jude Hospital was once again a full-service medical facility. It is now a 68-bed hospital.
Currently, we offer every service that Victoria Hospital or Tapion, even more. For example, we have our dental clinic We have our cardiologist who comes from Castries every other Monday to provide that service for our cardiology patients. We do have our psychiatrists who provide our mental patients with that service, and we have a continuous medical, surgical, orthopedic. We do have visiting ophthalmologists. We do not have a station one, but that service is provided on a regular basis throughout the year.
We see a large number of individuals from the community who are referred here when they need specialized care. We're fully aware of the high incidence of diabetes in this country, and one of the biggest complications that we're having would be the chronic ulcers, and therefore we manage a lot of these patients from in here.
Our goal ultimately is to reduce what we think is a very expensive process, which is managing complications. And the complications, as you can see, blindness not only causes significant disability, but takes this person out of the workforce. Amputations also affects the disability. So by keeping close tabs of those problems, we can hopefully avoid those complications.
And we have been seeing quite a few patients. On an average, we see approximately 50 patients on a daily basis.
We do strictly rehabilitation. You know, we see various sorts of ailments. We're talking about motor vehicle accidents, rehabilitation from motor vehicle accidents, from sports injuries, from pediatric deformities. We're looking at chest physiotherapy, including pneumonia and all kinds of respiratory conditions, rehabilitation from strokes, heart failures, just general rehabilitation, nothing specific.
This is the emergency room. In here we have 6 cubicles, and on a day-to-day basis we deal with several emergencies. We deal with motor vehicle accidents, traumas, lacerations, medical emergencies, and several other emergency cases.
We always have a good support team from surgery, from medicine, anesthesiology, depending on whatever case that we have. We always have a good support team to handle anything that walks through the door.
We are functioning just as we were in the old St. Jude's. We have a full complement of staff. We have all the backup facilities.
I must say, all my hats out to the staff we have, because they have actually turned a stadium into a hospital. And I think a lot of people, professional people from the region, are now coming and look at us as far as disaster preparedness is concerned. Because what we have done here, what the staff has done here, is actually a miracle.
In fact, from the time of the fire, we have realized that they have really gone beyond the call of duty to actually put the stadium facilities in the state that it is presently. And we actually have had reviews from PAHO who have been very impressed with the state of affairs at the stadium.
We have supported that service through Victoria Hospital with cases that they can't handle, and also because of the network of wellness centers we have around, we have been able to take up the slack.
The management and staff of St. Jude Hospital are to be commended for their innovation and commitment towards provision of healthcare services for the island from the George Odlum Stadium. St. Jude Hospital may be at home at the George Odlum Stadium, but this current arrangement is not ideal. It is ultimately a sporting facility, which is still being used by local and visiting world-class athletes, among them Asafa Powell, up to recently the fastest man in the world. But there are visionary plans for St. Jude Hospital, which will be developed in 2 phases. First, the old hospital will be renovated with the support of the People's Republic of China on Taiwan, who has promised a fully equipped facility within 9 months.
They must be commended, they must be thanked for their generosity. The Ambassador Tom Shaw has shown his commitment to the project, his generosity, and every step of the way he has been with us.
The other wings will also be refurbished, and hopefully within 10 months, St. Jude Hospital will return to its original home. During this time, the design and construction of a state-of-the-art, ultra-modern healthcare facility would have commenced. The new medical facility will not just offer world-class medical services to St. Lucia and the Eastern Caribbean, but will also cater to persons seeking medical treatment in a tropical setting. The new hospital will also provide support for the offshore medical school fraternity and training for local healthcare professionals.
You could look at the economic impact it will have, the number of students, the houses that will be rented, the groceries that will be bought, the transportation. So it has a very good economic impact. But also, as I said, if you can invite people from other islands to come in and use services there and highly specialize in some services, again, it's revenue making.
The renovation of the St. Jude Hospital and the construction of a new state-of-the-art hospital in the south are part of a national vision plan recently announced by the government of St. Lucia.
Essentially, what it will do is that it really provides a framework for the orderly development of the country over the medium to long term. The St. Jude redevelopment plan essentially aligns itself very seamlessly into this national vision plan for the country itself.
The renovations of the hospital, and in particular the reconstruction of the surgical wing, will be part of the short-term component of the National Vision Plan.
This short-term component essentially entails the reconstruction of the surgical wing that was destroyed in the fire last year. In addition to that, there are two buildings adjacent to the surgical wing, which will also be renovated.
The short-term plan will be financed by the government of St. Lucia and the government of the People's Republic of China on Taiwan. The new hospital will be funded by the government and people of St. Lucia, as well as private and public donors and financiers.
It's time to rebuild that hospital because the nation needs that hospital.
Because people used to come from different parts of the island to come to St. Jude's.
St. Jude Hospital is a very important hospital for the whole community.
All my children have 4 kids, all 4 of them born in St. Jude. So St. Jude is very important.
Well, it's important for the community because all of us have been going through it since when we were small, and they help a lot of us.
I want to be a part of the team member working there to contribute. I don't mind, I spent 3 months working there just to say that I contribute in helping to rebuild St. Jude Hospital because it is going to be one of the best in the island when it's finished.
I find that St. Jude's Hospital is very, very important hospital to us.
I know it has served both the rich and the poor. We have people from St. Vincent, we've got people from Castries, we've got people from all around the island.
I think that St. Jude's is important because it has helped many persons.
Everyone's about this urge, from the ashes of Phoenix will emerge.
The St. Jude Hospital fire was a tragedy which saw loss of life and a disruption to the provision of health service. But it now provides an opportunity to modernize and revolutionize healthcare in St. Lucia, the OECS, and beyond. It's the dawn of a new day.
Rising from the ashes, rebuilding the love. Rising from the ashes, rebuilding the love. Rising from the ashes, rebuilding the love.